you can only watch it for the first time once. It'll be interesting to see what we catch and what we don't.
Did you ever play the video game Mass Effect?
This is where Babylon 5 is becoming Babylon 5.
That was great. I love that.
100% completely accurate, definitive ranking of Babylon 5.
I love it so much.
We're officially into it, Jeff.
The year is 2025. The name of the podcast, Babylon 5, for the second time.
Welcome to Babylon 5 for the second time. My name is Brent Allen.
And I'm Jeff Akin. Brent and I used to be Star Trek podcasters, but then we watched Babylon 5 for the first time, and that changed everything. Now we're watching this incredible series for the second time around, paying attention to all of the things that we didn't know the first time around.
But don't worry, we are still searching for those sci-fi messages that we find in the series. You know, those things that hold up a mirror to society. Maybe they give us hope that things can be better in the future. They tell us how to be better human beings to one another. Jeff, I got a personal one earlier this week.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's for a future episode, but something that we missed. And I can't wait to share that one when it comes around to walk up. So yeah, excited for that one. But that is not this. We're looking for the messages contained within our quote unquote episode for today.
Yes, we are.
Now, that being said, this is the point where I typically issue a spoiler warning. Today, I want to turn that warning up to 11.
Right, exactly.
Because from this point forward, Jeff and I have full permission to talk about anything from any point in the franchise. That includes Babylon 5. That includes Crusade, Legends of the Rangers.
It's just Crusade.
Lost Tales,
Legend of the Rangers.
You know, any of the movies, the books, the comics, anything that's come from a convention or anything like that, or something that perhaps comes from the words of JMS himself in the form of his script book, volume 15 in this particular case. So that being said, if you have not watched this show yet, please stop. I would never ask you to stop watching us except for now.
Right.
Stop this, scroll back up in the feed and catch our first time watch, which you're not going to find this particular episode on, but catch our first time watch and then join us as you get to the second time, because trust us, you want to do it this way. Do not spoil yourself. You have been warned.
We're going beyond the end of the first series.
Is it the rim? Are we beyond the rim?
I don't know about that. We'll determine that here in a little bit, because Brent, you know what we're going to do today?
What are we going to do today, Jeff?
We are, thanks to some incredible members of our community, Andrew and Mikey, who I know Andrew's here with us today. I hope Mikey is too, because oftentimes our Council Chamber subscribers and our Patreon are always invited to join us when we record. And today we've invited all of our Patreon subscribers because this is a big deal. See, Andrew and Mikey both sent us this. It's the volume 15 of the scripts of J. Michael Straczynski of Babylon 5. And contained within this tome, Brent, it's the outline of the original 5-year plan.
I say nay, nay.
Nay, nay.
Not an outline. It's an actual narrative.
It really
is. It's an actual paragraphed out. Is that a word? Paragraphed out?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. Why not?
It is taken his outline and turned it into an actual story of what the 5-year plan was at the very beginning, what he was thinking when he went into this series and where he was thinking about going with it.
And to be clear, the original 10-year idea, because Brent, we've got a lot to dive into in this one. You, I understand, went out, you got onto one of those, what do they call them? Torrent sites, and grabbed yourself a copy of PowerPoint 98 or whatever so that you could put together a visual to go along with a read of this plan.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Typically what happens at this point, Jeff, is you and I go watch an episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And the episode plays down there. We put a little wall mark over it because we want to respect copyright laws and stuff like that. But we play an episode and we have our reaction to it. We don't have that. This is written word.
Yeah.
Right. So how could we do this? And we flipped it back and forth, and we said, well, why don't we turn it into an episode? And so, yeah, using the power of PowerPoint, just set your expectations, folks. We were able to go in and spend a ridiculous amount of time pulling clips that actually kind of show that what's happening
Mm-hmm.
ish. Like ish.
Right.
If you know the show, many of you guys are experts in the show and you know it far better than we do. Hopefully you'll be able to recognize and go, oh, that's the point he was talking about from the actual show. And sometimes you'll be like, that's not it, but I get what he's going for. And sometimes we just had to make things completely up to fit it in. But we made an episode, Jeff.
Yeah.
We made an episode
I know, I'm so
out
excited.
of this thing. It's 22 minutes long.
Okay.
The whole thing is 22 minutes long. We have a voice actor.
Yes.
The incredible Alec Alec Haddon, who's an actor that I work with here. And he was kind enough to go record this twice. I want to make sure we get the pronunciations right for everything. And we were able to do that. But Jeff, before we dive in, I think we need to just sort of set the stage for what this is a little bit.
Little context, yeah.
Because in the book, prior to writing this, JMS kind of puts like a note into the reader. And basically what he's saying is this is the context of what this document is. So I thought we should read that first. Now we can read this.
Right, yeah.
First. It's like just a page long. Do you want to do it or you want me to?
Why don't you kick it off, and if you get tired, I can pick it up. But
there you go.
You got
or
it.
if I start to suck, you just cut me off and jump in.
Okay.
All right, here we go. It says, as I began work on Babylon 5's first season, I felt
it was important for. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said if you sucked, I could just jump in.
Go ahead, man.
Go,
right.
man. I'm sorry.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah.
I felt it was important for me to know where I was going, not just in terms of benchmarks, as embodied by my note cards with individual episodes broken out in varying degrees of detail, but as a true narrative. You can't get a sense of narrative from a clutch of 110 3x5 cards. So I had to write it as a whole piece, as a unit, in broad strokes, to know if the story worked as a story. So I pulled those notes together and wrote the document that appears on the following pages. The next day, I met Michael O'Hare for lunch at a restaurant of for lunch at the restaurant of the Beverly Garland Hotel in North Hollywood, where all the relocated cast were being housed for work purposes. He was still trying to get a handle on the character of Jeffrey Sinclair. Who was this man? Where did he come from? And where is he going?
Oh, all right. Where are you going?
As a veteran Babylon 5 person, I know those questions. He says, I hesitated a moment, and then I pulled the pages out I'd finished writing the day before, which means he did not plan to give this to Michael O'Hare. He wrote this for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I handed them to Michael. He began reading. He didn't say a word. He just kept reading. And at the end, he cried. Not big, not embarrassing, but his eyes leaked in a way that said he couldn't stop them from doing so. To my knowledge, Michael O'Hare and I are the only people who have ever seen this document. If I showed it to WB or other producers on Babylon 5, I don't recall, but it certainly never went any further. Now at last, that final magician's trick is revealed to the audience, completing the experiment begun with my first internet posting about Babylon 5, and which has continued into the series of books, an experiment in explaining how this story was told and how the series was made, in the hope of creating a roadmap for those who will come after me. That's an important detail right there.
Mm-hmm.
The last curtain is pulled aside at last. My job is now done. It's up to the rest of you to now pick up the slack. You, the reader. I've told my story and the story about that story to its completion. It's your turn now. Tell me a story and make it a really good one.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, I hope, Jeff, we talked about this with our first watch when we went through this. Just a little aside here about how the story of Babylon 5 for the first time was its own story.
Yeah, our
like
story.
The story of Jeff and Brent and our, kind of where we started as viewers versus where we ended up as viewers, and the roller coaster that went on that. And I kind of felt like we sort of mirrored the show a little bit, or mirrored Londo sometimes.
Or sometimes, yeah.
We had our highs, we had our lows, and you and I were determined to stay true to wherever we were in the process. And sometimes we were in the same spot, sometimes we were in different spots, but that was a story in and of itself. And I kind of like that story, to be honest with you. It's kind of fun as we're looking back at Babylon 5, and that certainly is the main focus of the show, you and I are kind of revisiting our first watch as well,
Right.
and kind of getting to track that along too. So anyway, all of that aside, go tell your story, folks. JMS says
Totally.
that his
Do
job's
it.
done. He asked you to tell him a story, so there you go.
I love that we shared and that you read that context very well. You sounded great. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, sir.
But it's a little peek into the process, right? So we read the autobiography of JMS becoming Superman. We go back and you can hear our episode on it. But this isn't, Babylon 5 isn't an idea that one day he was just like, here's this idea. I'm going to go like pitch it. No, he thought about this for a period, like a long period of time, and worked on it. And, you know,
although I'm pretty sure he's also said it just sort of came to him in the shower one day.
Exactly. And had dreams about it. But it was the process of taking it from that vision, that idea, making it concrete, making it tangible on 110 3x5 cards. That's a 3x5 card per episode, right? Like, wow. And then to flesh it out into what we're about to dive into, and then to flesh it out into what we have all experienced that are here. The 110 episodes of glory that we're doing our second time watch. So I really appreciate just the look into his process. And like you pointed out, he wrote this for him. You know, I mean, it's just, I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. And it took a lot of chutzpah to show it to anybody, include if you're going to, it's your series lead, I guess. You know, since the whole story really revolves around that particular character. So anyway, Jeff, that's where we are. How about we dive in?
Let's do it.
All right. So the way this works is, as we've said, we're going to watch this video. We'll still do the stop and pause and talk thing. At least that's the plan as we go through. And who knows? Maybe we'll post this video out on. Okay, there's no maybe. We're going to post this video out there because I think this is. You know, something I've not seen, and I've looked around on YouTube. I've not seen anybody who's done this video.
I don't think it's out there.
I don't know that it's out there. It might be. And I've just missed it, but I've not seen it. And so this is the story that I almost kind of feel like we're getting to tell JMS's story that he's already told himself. So
right, a little bit
in a new way. Yeah. So, how long have you guys been working on this video? Our friend Andrew asks. Too long.
Oh man, I have. One day I might publish the text messages from Brent, talking him off the ledge.
I think this one is knocking on the door of 20 hours.
Right,
I'm pretty sure. Maybe a little longer.
Probably a little more, I would think.
Yeah, probably more. Yeah, I mean, it's at least an hour a minute. Yeah. So maybe more than that. So anyway. Enough him and Han, Jeff. Let's get into this.
Yeah. So if you're joining us for the first time, like Brent said, we're going to watch this. It's going to happen. Now, normally we have a whole spiel about cutting up for YouTube and doing stuff. Nope. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing the same thing everyone else is seeing. But if you want access to our episodes a week early, if you want to have the opportunity to be invited to our live recordings as a member of our council chambers, you can head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Babylon5First. That's the number 5 and the word first, and check out all the cool stuff that's over there.
All right. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited for this, man.
It's not that great. Listen,
I just like seeing the work that you do. I know how much you cared about this.
All right, here we go.
Babylon 5 Series Timeline. Following the events of the pilot episode, Sinclair begins to suspect that someone erased 24 hours of his memory from the final moments of the Earth-Mimbari War. The only way that this could happen is if he were removed from his ship. He now begins the process of trying to find out if this indeed took place. If so, who's responsible? But he's not the only person following this trail. A secret group on Earth, a government agency, also suspects something happened, specifically that Sinclair is a traitor who somehow sold out Earth. Their agents will work hard to either break through the mental block, if one really exists, or in some other way find out what happened on the line.
So, in your video, for our audio listeners, Brent said, you're written right to the point right here. I paused this at the perfect spot. Brent did a beautiful job. I mean, there's some great timing in there. I loved when you're like trying to figure out who it was, right when he like pulls their hood back.
Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
Like, Like I had to yeah.
That
There's lots of places where I tried to really time up certain things. So
shows.
yeah,
You did a
thank you
great
for I
job.
appreciate you catching that.
I'm watching that. I care. It's good stuff. But Brent brought in. We saw Psycor from the Mind War coming in,
Yeah.
and my immediate reaction was like, "This isn't the government agency they're talking about, Brent." But as soon as I paused it, we have Night 1 and Night 2, who are so you're on track. But what I find interesting about this is we have heard the story that originally Walter Koenig was going to be offered the role of, I think, one of them, like the guy who does most of the talking. He had a heart attack, ended up moving into Mind War. It worked out pretty great for Walter Koenig, and for us, I think it was the bestest decision that could have happened. But this storyline, this thread, kind of got dropped. But in the original plan, this was a really, really key part of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It certainly carried all the way through. So
All right.
Which is this. Sinclair's ship was taken aboard the Mimbari cruiser he was attempting to ram. He was taken prisoner along with other Earth Alliance, EA, pilots. This was the main battle cruiser, on which were almost all of the ruling Grey Council. They had come to oversee the final stages of the war, and the coming occupation and rule of Earth, or its destruction, should Earth choose not to surrender. One member of the Grey Council had a revelation, that one of the captured pilots was more than he seemed, that an ancient prophecy concerning the very survival of the Mimbari race was coming into fruition.
So it's an ancient prophecy concerning the survival of the Mimbari race coming into fruition, which was given by someone who had time traveled and basically was just saying what happened.
Yeah, this is what's going to happen in the future, but it's a prophecy now.
And I know because I lived it, right? like I'm already there. I love it. I love that prophecy.
The Mimbari are a dying race. Their population is decreasing. Their cities are crumbling.
Oh, nice.
Each generation, their children are born weaker, more fragile, all as was prophesied. But one outsider was foretold as being able to save the Mimbari, give it a new birth. At least, that is one interpretation of the prophecy. Another reading of the same text leads others to believe that this outsider could cause the destruction of the Mimbari race.
I like that concept, right? The whole idea of the interpretation of a prophecy. We talk about that in some of our analysis, right? Like, where is this prophecy? Who says this stuff or whatever? But I feel like in To Dream in the City of Sorrows, they explore this idea a little bit of this guy who's coming to save us. Not necessarily like the idea.
I'm sorry. To Dream in the City of Sorrows. That's a book you're referencing right
yes.
now. Okay, got it.
It's a book that picks up on day one of Sinclair no longer being on Babylon 5 and goes through to his formation of the Rangers and Marcus heading to Babylon 5, or actually to the jal'Zha world for the Ranger Training Center, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, like when he transferred, like not when he goes back in time as Valen, but like even now when he becomes an ambassador to Mimbar.
Yes.
Cool.
And then goes on to tell a story of how he became jal'Zha. And it's a great story. It's a great story, but there's a lot of tension, mostly with Narn, but Narun's representing the military caste. And they don't say it explicitly, but hearing this really makes it ring where it's that difference of, no, this guy, we can't have a human come and do this. That's not going to save us in the case of the story we read from the shadows, but they are afraid it will lead to the destruction. It's interesting that the original idea was that exactly. We have two interpretations of the prophecy.
Which is like a mirror to society because that's pretty much how prophecy works. JMS will say later in this script, spoiler alert, like most prophecies or scriptures, you can only really properly interpret them after the fact, like once it's happened. I have my history with theology and those sorts of things on a very formal level. And that's something I actually wrote a paper once called what was it? It was the implications of the doctrine of election on premillennial eschatology.
Such a nerd.
I wrote that paper. Anyway, But my thing was at the end of that was that, but the truth is we as people are really, really bad at interpreting prophecy that has yet to be fulfilled. We just don't do it very well.
No.
So, we got to wait for it to be done. And then we can, that was it right there. Now we recognize.
Oh, there's the thing.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, back into this.
The Grey Council members insist that the outsider
real quick, they talk about how the Mimbari is a dying race and the generations are getting weaker and more fragile. And what I'm curious is what did that actually mean? Like, we know Drawl comes and he's like, everybody's changing, and Lanier says that too, right? Like, we're getting weaker. I think a part of it, the idea is like they're having less and less children, like they're on a population decline might also be a part of that. But like, what does it mean that they were getting weaker each generation, that felt like they were losing souls? Like I'm real curious where that like what that looks like, because I got to tell you, I would look at the generations that are out right now, be like, you're so weak. You're so weak. But I also know that when people looked at me when I was a kid, like the baby boomers and the greatest generation, they'd be like, Gen X, millennial, whatever. You guys are so weak right now. Like, I feel like every generation says that of the next generation.
Agreed. Suzanne over in our Patreon chat says that the weaker and more fragile is a Lord of the Rings thing.
Is it really? Oh, we know he loves his Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yep.
That's cool. Okay. Fair enough.
question is Sinclair. He must be released and allowed to go on his way to find his destiny. To do that, the Mimbari must surrender, allowing Earth's future history to go unimpeded. The military leaders strongly disagreed, and there was a falling out between them, capped by the suicide of the leader of the military caste, and the desertion of a small but dedicated group of his followers.
Was that how the jal'Zha died?
Suicide?
Was a suicide? Did he die via suicide?
I don't think so. Not in the show.
Not in the show.
No.
Okay. All right. He just died.
I think.
For whatever reason.
I could be wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
Was responsible for the attack on B5 and Sinclair in the pilot movie. In order to avoid interfering with his destiny, the Grey Council wiped Sinclair's memory of all of this, put him back in his ship, and surrendered. His progress since then has been monitored from afar by the Mimbari and their agents. Meanwhile, the Earth Alliance, almost obliterated in the course of the war, began the Babylon Project as a means of preventing future wars. Babylons 1, 2, and 3 were sabotaged and destroyed during construction, each time by a different group.
Did we know that?
Babylon 4 vanished.
Yeah. Did we know that each time it was a different group?
Well, we didn't know it. Because we didn't know who it was, but that was the speculation.
That it was a different group each time. That's interesting. You know, I do like this quote. Is like, yeah, we need to let Sinclair go and go put him out there so he can go unimpeded.
Also,
we're gonna take him and put him in charge of B5 so we can keep an eye on him.
He'll be unimpeded, and we're gonna make sure he does exactly what we want him to do.
Right. So I didn't realize this until going through this. The jal'Zha's little rogue group that came out, they were the ones responsible for the attack on Kosh, and that's why they set up Sinclair.
Okay.
This is, because this is what he was writing at that point. Like at the time, this is why they set up Sinclair for it.
Oh, okay.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
You know, now obviously that changes later as things get retconned because of things necessarily changing in the story, but still.
Mysteriously. When Babylon 5 was finally completed, the search was begun for someone to run the place. The Mimbari, as participants in the last war, were first to sign on to the station as co-sponsors. Their condition for participation? Approval over who was hired to run it. They eliminated one name after another,
starting with
ambassadors and generals, and working their way further and further down the ranks until finally getting to the name of a commander who had distinguished himself during the war, but who since then had largely dropped from sight. Commander Jeffrey Sinclair. This was the name they finally selected. The Mimbari want Sinclair where they can keep an eye on him. They also feel that this role will be conducive to his achieving his destiny. but there are still factors within the Mimbari government who don't entirely agree with Sinclair's possible role. If the Grey Council are right, then yes, he could be the one who helps their race find renewal.
Could be.
But if they're wrong, he could be the one to cause their own personal Ragnarok. For that reason, they selected Delen as ambassador to Babylon 5. His mission is to help Sinclair if he goes in one direction.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I want you to pay attention to the pronoun usage as this continues, right? Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, and we've talked about this before. We know this, that the original idea was that the Mimbari were more androgynous, and that Delen would change, into a female.
Yep.
Which is why Delen has such a. We have people in our own community, people who are trans, who really look to Delen. I mean, and some in really, really big ways, who really look to Delen as sort of a role model in that aspect.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very cool. So,
and I think it's like, at the time this was written, we had 2 sets of pronouns. That was it, right? So I just want to just listen to all of you watching or listening. Just listen to the use of pronouns describing Delen.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting when they said, "Hey, they assigned Delen to do this." I didn't get the impression that Delen was the one in the idea that we're writing here, that Delen was the one who's like, "Hey, this guy's different."
I don't think that was. I mean, sorry, I think I edited the video to suggest that.
Yeah.
But it's just what I don't think it was Delen. I think it was somebody else. Was the intent, and Delen. But I think later when we got to like atonement in the beginning, because I think it was they went and got Delen and was like, "Hey, come look at this," and Delen was the one who held up the Triluminary and was doing stuff.
Yeah.
And she, I think, kind of took point on that, being a child of Valen herself.
Right.
Although if she's a child of Valen, shouldn't have been glowing when it was in her hand.
Yeah. Or it's who you pointed at. It's who.
Maybe,
it's who the plot is pointing it at that moment that determines it.
I will say this though. I found this very interesting. Delen's mission was to either help, and actually had a different mission than just help.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Or kill.
Yeah.
Right? Like Delen here. Well, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna say this now so I don't have to pause it again later.
Okay.
Delen comes into this whole thing, if I understand the thing here right, with the point of mating with him. She's either going to mate with him and have a baby, or she's going to kill him.
Yeah, either way, it's gonna be a night he'll never forget.
Either way, she's gonna fuck him. So, but listen, I have been a great defender of Delen. This entirely recolors the Delen character in a not great way for me.
Yeah.
And I want to specify the Delen that is in this script.
Yes.
Not the Delen that we got. The Delen that is in this treatment, because there's some things that even JMS says that I'm looking at it going, your whole thing is about, like, it's not having to do with relationships. I'm sure JMS would have made it like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he would have fixed it, because this is a very rough treatment. But just given the way it sounds here, there's some stuff that's like, Delen's dirty, dude.
Right.
Delen, yeah.
And also, I think with that, though, what a huge responsibility.
Sure.
Hey, you one person, our entire race is about to collapse. So you go decide what our next step is on your own. Brent, I want to take a second and read a quote. I won't name the person. I'm going to read the quote, and if this person says it's cool to say their name, I'll say their name, but I don't want to just name them here. But this quote, I read it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel that. When Delen reveals herself in the council chambers after her transition, I jumped out of my seat shouting, "She's trans, just like me!"
Yeah.
Oh, power. That's the power of representation, for God's sake. That's huge.
And in the 90s, the early 90s for that? Oh my gosh.
And that's from Delen, from our good and dear friend Delen.
It made so much of a point with Delen that she took the name.
Yeah, I love it.
Which is really cool. Which is really, really cool. So, but Delen here is still a he.
Right? At
And
this
is
moment.
about to do something.
Yeah, pay attention to the pronoun usage.
how
This
it
is
works.
brilliant.
Sure.
To kill him if he goes in another direction. The new birth of the Mimbari race and the dawn of the third age of mankind turns out to be a very literal one. a melding of the human and Mimbari races through a child conceived by Delen
I didn't have
and
Delen and
Sinclair.
Sinclair kissing. So
This will be
sometimes Sheridan
facilitated by
is
Delen undergoing a series of genetic
Sinclair.
manipulations designed to make her more human and able to mate
There it
with
is.
Sinclair.
I love it.
The Great Council believes that their offspring will unify the human and Mimbari races and lead both into a new golden age.
That's a change from the show.
Oh, a dramatic change.
The Great Council was like all in on this. Like this is the Great Council is directing this, which was not necessarily what we got in the show.
Well, I get the impression, and we'll hear more about it as this continues, but there's the Great Council, and then there's the military cast. Like, it's not necessarily that the Great Council is ruling over all necessarily.
I don't think I ever got that impression. You mean here in this treatment, or the way it's actually presented in the show?
This treatment.
Gotcha. It definitely. I think in my head it was they were just a fracture, like the Great Council fractured with them, and they kind of came in and took over. But I can see what you're saying. I can really see what you're saying. But yeah. Like I remember the Great Council. Like I remember actually being confused in the show on our first watch, because they were like lambasting her, but they also gave her the Triluminary to do this.
Yeah.
It was like, and I was like, why are you? And realize it's some of the people in the Great Council did this. And
Yeah,
some did
it's not the Great Council. There are 9 people that are individuals who have thoughts and motivations. I love this this idea, right? We 2 people from different races are going to come together, and we're going to create a child that will bring us together. One of my favorite iterations. This is a story that's told in sci-fi relatively frequently. It's not rare, but one of my favorites is in V, The Final Battle, where it's oh my gosh, it's not Lydia. I forget the one, but the guy who mates with, oh my gosh, Robin is their name, and they have Starchild, who is supposed to bring the races together. It doesn't happen that way, and she has magic powers, and it got pretty ridiculous. But as soon as I read this, I was like, oh my God, it's totally from V. I love it.
This change takes place as a first season cliffhanger.
And it did.
Yep.
This is a troubling development to many of the Mimbari. As a race, they put a premium on their own version of ethnic purity.
We get a lot of that.
This will be seen by many of them as the ultimate act of betrayal. But other forces are at work at the same time. One such force leads to the assassination of the Earth Alliance president, who is replaced by someone less sympathetic to B5's cause.
Less sympathetic.
Londo misses the grand days of empire that characterized the Centauri Republic. He'd give anything to...
I just want to point out that all of this has really just been the foundation of the Sinclair and Mimbari story. Now we're going to get to everybody else.
Yeah.
Starting with Londo.
restore that. He also sees the Narns as a real threat. He knows what his own people did to them at one time, and it's not hard to guess what they'd like to do to the Centauri in return. Or any other group that got in their way. And Jakar's goal is to keep everyone at each other's throats. His worst-case scenario is to see others getting together to form a power that could endanger his world again.
This is season 1 Jakar, totally.
I was going to say, let's stop and talk about that, because now we're talking about what did we get in season 1 versus what did we get in the rest of the show, and here's the intention. Jakar was in with the intention of keeping everybody at each other's throats.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back and rewatch season 1 now and watch him through those eyes. Now, he certainly changes, as he goes on in his journey, but wow.
Well, if you think about The Gathering, so much of that is him going after Sinclair and the Earth. Then immediately after Midnight on the Fireline, I'm going after the Centauri.
Yeah.
And then he argues with the League of Non-Aligned Worlds in the War Prayer, right? Or in Deathwalker. Where does he land in Death? He stirs up the League, right? So
yeah, he votes against the council, like just seemingly for shits and giggles.
Yeah, pretty much. Just like, hey, I'm going to keep everyone at everyone's throat, and I'm just this chaos agent over here, pretty much.
Yeah, it's and we had that idea of the Narn. Remember, like they were the warriors of this story, you know, and turns out they weren't, because they can't fight
Right.
at all.
They have awesome kicks.
I was part of going through this. I got to the scene where it was late season 2, but like the Centauri just start beating up the Narn, and the Centauri do it with no problems. I'm just talking like the civilians on the station on the Zocalo. Like the Narn just had nothing. Like here the Narn looking all big and bad, and the Centauri just whooped up on him. I was like, oh, Narn. Anyway, yeah. But interesting piece with Jakar. You know, that's an interesting. I've said interesting like 8 times now. That's fascinating. If we were to do like just a whole episode on like him as a character, of starting there versus where he ends up.
Yeah. Bringing everyone together. He's the voice of unity at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do that.
Which is, I mean, you talk about dynamic characters. I don't know that there's a single static character in this show that's on the DVD cover.
Keffer. Well, he changes.
He was he changes into a. They put his picture of him blowing up on the DVD cover.
Londo finds his opportunity in the gradual introduction of a new race, which we will tentatively call the Shadow Men. Name will change later.
Not that much.
They will slowly make themselves known in the series, though we won't actually see them for a long time. They save Londo's neck at one point, bailing him out of a crisis and making him look good at home. They gradually draw him to their side, offering in exchange for his cooperation the prospect of restored glory for beloved empire. And
there's a difference here, and I feel like Londo is more complicit
in this story. Absolutely, yeah. He was a lot easier. Feels like he was a lot easier to bring in this story than he was in the story that we got. And I'm going to call that a positive change.
I agree. Yeah, I think it adds a lot to his character. But it's, because he was really, Morden did a lot of manipulation of him. Whereas here, he's like, let's do it.
I'm sorry, Alyssa, talking about people being dynamic characters, said Keffer changes into plasma.
It's kind of the ultimate change, really.
Cooperation, the prospect of restored glory for beloved empire, and a grand position for himself within the empire. At the end of the 2nd season, beginning of the 3rd, we discover the secret of the Vorlons when Sinclair's life is endangered during a fight in the Central Core shuttle.
I know it's
He's
Sheridan,
kicked out of the shuttle and begins falling,
like it's Sinclair.
Slowly at first, but he gains speed as he moves away from the center, toward real gravity. There's no time for anyone to get a pack and rescue him. Delen, the only other person up until now to know what a Vorlon is, as hinted at by the nod to Kosh in the reception party in the pilot, suggests that if Kosh is going to do something, it should be now. Aside, the arrival of a Vorlon at Babylon 5 was further proof to the Great Council that they were right. They once had dealing with the Vorlons, but fell from grace, as it were, and the restoration of that connection is something greatly to be desired.
I think that's an extra piece. I don't know that we saw the fall from grace, but I do feel
even from in the beginning to the gathering, I don't think that we saw or necessarily understood that there had been a fallout between the Vorlons and the Mimbari.
But I do think we got the desire to like suck up to them a bit. A lot, actually.
At that moment, everyone else in the garden sees something remarkable. And
everything he's describing right here is exactly what happened.
As it were.
Just substitute Sinclair for Sheridan. Or Sheridan for Sinclair. But it's exactly how it happened, which I love. I love that he was able to
keep that together.
The arrival of a Vorlon at Babylon 5 was further proof to the Great Council that they were right. They once had dealings with the Vorlons, but
I feel like the Great Council are going to look for any
and the restoration of that connection is something greatly to be desired.
Right.
At that moment, everyone else in the garden sees something remarkable, and what each sees is different. To our eyes, and those of Sinclair, what rises from the garden to catch him looks like an angel. Not a stereotypical angel, though. It must convey a genuine sense of alienness. Eyes that are twice as large as they should be, higher up on the forehead than should be the case, bronze skin, wings that have a slightly menacing look to them. But everyone else in the garden doesn't see what we or Sinclair see. They see a different figure saving Sinclair. In each case, though, it is a religious figure from their own world, their own culture. we will see each of these variations from their individual point of view. The place is abuzz thereafter. P5 becomes a mecca for pilgrims.
Yep.
Only a few know that it is Kosh who made this appearance. All anyone else knows is that the station had a visitation by their own particular sub-deity.
Zach, mine.
Only one person does not share this moment of sublime revelation. Londo. He sits at the bar, very much alone. Drink in hand, he shakes his head.
Exactly as he wrote it.
I saw nothing.
I love that this was a core piece of the story forever.
Yeah. And if you can read Peter Jursik's lips here, it's the same line that JMS wrote. Like he already wrote the line.
Yeah.
Like it's the same, just the timing's a little different than what our guy read it. You know.
Nothing. He seems almost broken-hearted not to have seen what the others saw, felt what they felt. Though Sinclair, Delen, and a few others finally know what Kosh is, that revelation isn't quite as simple as first seems. The Vorlons are not supernatural entities. They are living, breathing creatures with a propensity for mucking about in other species' worlds. They have an attitude of, we know best, and have been to various extents the puppet masters pulling strings here and there for millennia, visiting worlds, creating what they consider to be the right context for civilizations to grow and prosper. Sort of interstellar nuds. They are, in short,
Whoops.
not...
We both.
There you
had
go.
it. There
You and I are hitting this at the exact
I
same
know,
time.
right?
Just so you guys know, Jeff and I actually both have control, like equal control over this video. So it's not just one or the other. And we're hitting at the same time. Jeff, we've had this conversation a bit before, and I know I've had this conversation with people in comments and stuff, people in the community. I think we've had it with our council chambers and our certain meetings about are the Vorlons actually good?
Right.
Are the shadows actually bad? That's a great question. It's a question that the show asks. It's a question that even in this treatment, JMS himself is asking and putting out there. I want us to have this conversation later tonight.
All right. When we
I
get
want to dive into that. Not right now. I want to dive into that once we get through the shadow pieces and stuff as well. We'll get to the end of this video. Because I have a position and I don't think I'm changing it
all right.
on this. And I want to talk about that a little bit more.
I also have a position. Let's see where we land.
Yeah.
Nuds. They are, in short, not necessarily the good guys. Appearances can be deceptive.
Yeah.
What someone else wants for your life may not be what you want.
Brent,
or what
that's
is necessarily
great.
correct.
Oh my
This
God, I have to
vision-
pause this. Holy crud.
I knew that one immediately. That one was not hard to me.
I just have to say, so I have gotten a lot of credit over the years for remembering things in the series or whatever. You, for our audio listeners, talking about someone else choosing what you want. Brent goes all the way back to Gropos and pulls out Franklin and his dad. Oh, Brent.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. I do have to say, I put out on Discord, there were some people who I was like, I asked certain questions like, hey, which episode did we find this in? Hey, which episode did we find that in? I knew Gropos. I had that one. But there's several of these clips that folks helped me out with. And they were I didn't tell them what it was for. They didn't know it was necessarily for this. Some of them might have figured it out. Ben's a good guesser. So thank you to those, to those of you who helped me out. Thank you so much, because you guys were very part of it, and stick to the end.
You'll be deceptive. What someone else wants for your life may not be what you want, or what is necessarily correct. This vision, and the upswing in visits by fanatics, some of whom are potentially dangerous, further draws the eye of Earth Force officials already suspicious of Sinclair. This point marks an escalation in the storyline. Things begin to move faster. We discover, over the first few seasons, that the Psi Corps is not the benign organization it seemed at first. They are the ones who pull the strings that move the government. They know all the secrets, have much of the power, and they're trying to consolidate that.
One change. I don't think we were ever led to believe they were a benign organization.
I think that's true.
I think the first we really heard of them was join the Corps, take the sleepers, go to prison.
Yeah.
And that's not very benign.
I do also want to say that I do appreciate the confirmation that the Vorlon are supposed to look like angels, or what we would call angels.
Mm.
Like we were just saying that because that's the best word that we had. That's the right word. Message conveyed appropriately. We got it.
Well done.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Shadow Men
Meanwhile.
intensify their recruitment. They offer Londo something he can't resist, something that will make his career. They will make the Narn homeworld a gift to Centauri Republic. They will hand the Centauri the entire Narn Empire on a silver platter. All they ask of Londo is to be their spokesman and to act on their behalf,
Wasn't
while
that
they
Morden's
continue
job?
to operate from
Yep.
the shadows.
Although, so I think what it turned into is Morden is their spokesperson. Londo is their right hand.
Londo's their government puppet master that Morden never would be.
Couldn't be.
But Morden was the spokesman. So I think that would be a question I'd want to have for JMS was Morden a part of this original? I mean, I know he didn't put it in here, but was Morden a part of the original plan? And what would have there been a difference between the two jobs? Like, was Morden specifically a recruiter for Londo, and Londo was going to be the voice box and the spokesman? That might be more it. Morden's spot specifically was go find Londo, go find the spokesperson. That's
Yeah.
probably kind of a John the Baptist to Jesus sort of thing.
Right,
The guy
yeah.
who comes before.
I think that in the change in Londo's character, though, from being complicit in working with the
Mhm.
shadows to being more manipulated and rolling along, they had to pull that spokesperson part away from him.
Mhm.
Although he still very much spoke for them, but he spoke for the Centauri for them without knowing he was speaking for them.
I was going to say, there's probably a lot of places where Londo did speak for the shadows. He just didn't realize that's who he was speaking for. He just thought he was speaking for the Centauri.
Yeah.
And that's just how they're being manipulated.
Londo agrees, and shortly, a massive fleet appears out of nowhere near the Narn homeworld. Before anyone can respond, the attack is on. The homeworld is decimated, its fleets destroyed. The planet is rendered totally helpless for a second wave of Centauri ships, which makes the rubble bounce a little with their own attack, and then take over the place. All the Narns know is that a fleet of black ships came out of nowhere, and that was the end for them. This is the worst possible news for G'Kar, who comes within an inch of killing Londo before being separated by station security. He insists that despite the Centauri invasion, he still represents his people, and must be allowed to speak for them in exile.
Probably
Londo
one of Andreas
protests,
Katsoulis'
arguing
greatest
that the
speeches
Narn
ever.
homeworld
Oh my
is
God,
now a
same.
Centauri protectorate. He insists that the Centauri came in at the request of Narn moderates, who feared that their leaders were planning a massive war against all of the other governments. G'Kar is allowed to remain.
Boy, we've seen this recently, haven't we?
Yeah.
One country invading another country, and then the line is, well, they asked us to come in.
Right.
This particular group of people wanted us to come in, right?
What is that?
We've literally just seen this in the world.
A couple
We might be
mirrors.
about to see it. We might be about to see it again.
On Babylon 5 as ambassador without portfolio. He hopes to use his position to rally support for his people, but their violent ways tend to preclude the possibility of anyone coming to their assistance now. They've burned too many bridges.
Just gotta say, freaking Natoth.
I had to put her in, man.
Yeah.
I had to put her in, but violent ways. The violent ways of the Narn. You and I often talk about how the Narn really aren't that violent, except for Natoth.
You know, exactly. Natoth, like she represents the violent faction of them. They just
Yeah.
never show up on Babylon 5. They stay on Homeworld.
Yeah. Which again, I think that's the reason you and I had an idea about who the Narn were is because, and JMS can correct me if I'm wrong, is because that's who he thought they were, and that's who they were portrayed. And it took a couple episodes, and it kind of got mitigated a little bit as the story went on. Probably
evolved.
influenced majorly by Andreas Katsoulis and others, and just as the needs of the story evolve. You know,
Yeah. I wonder. I think we've speculated on this before, but like, I'm curious how much of the changes for Londo and G'Kar, how many of them
Especially
were
those two.
directly a result of Peter and Andreas. Like,
and
just
their acting choices, and then that influenced back. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great question. It's a great question.
For the latter half
These are-
of the third season,
By the way, folks, These are questions that, like, if any of you guys go to a con and JMS is there and you want to ask him those questions,
Do it.
make a video and send it back to us.
Yeah.
Like, those are great. I've got to imagine. Listen, when you're a person who's doing a con, you probably get a lot of the same questions again and again. And a lot of those questions probably are sort of meh. These are like, I'm patting ourselves on the back here, Jeff. These are the questions that everybody wants to answer. No, I'm not trying to do that, but like, these are some thought-provoking questions that I would never have had I not had this conversation with you and the folks out there commenting to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway.
In the first part of the fourth, G'Kar returns to the Narn homeworld to join the
This is a
underground
change.
resistance and fight for his world. Meanwhile, Londo's position and power is on the rise. He is surrounded by flunkies and plenipotentiaries who cater to his whims as he plans the moment when he can return to Centauri Prime as its leader. It's during this same time, the third, fourth season bridges, that Delen and Sinclair begin to come together. He is nearly destroyed when his lover, Catherine, who we will introduce in season 1,
Love that
is
she was
mind
part of the
raped,
plan.
and all memory of their relationship is wiped out. The only way he
don't know who
can
that is.
restore her
That's
memory
Catherine.
is to do the same thing to her all over again. Put her through what is essentially a mind rape,
That's Catherine too.
and he can't bring himself to do that.
Oh,
It's a very vulnerable moment for him, and it's now when Delen makes her move. They begin to come together.
Right?
By the end,
Yeah.
that is the most sly. Like, Dylan's walking in like,
Right?
time for me to make my move.
I've been waiting a couple years for this.
Ooh, here's my opening. Let's go. I got it. She's just been mind raped. There's my shot to get some of that.
Hey, baby. Need a shoulder to cry on, maybe a head bone to wipe those tears with.
Head bone. Oh my god.
But that language, oh my God. He's
Yeah.
super vulnerable. And so this is her time to make
Time to
her move.
slide in, baby, and make her move. What? She's just been waiting on it. She's just been waiting.
Right?
It's time for me to make my move.
Just like wait, twiddling her thumbs. It's now the moment.
of season 4, they are lovers, and Delen is pregnant with their child.
That was quick.
A quick
Yeah,
aside,
you know.
in a season 1 story, the Babylon 5 sensors will pick up a disturbance some distance away from the station, deep in space. Distress calls, scrambled by static, quickly follow. When they investigate and find that Babylon 4 has reappeared as suddenly and mysteriously as it vanished, it seems to have jumped forward in time. It's phasing in and out of existence, caught between here and its eventual destination, wherever and whenever that is. Sinclair and the rest hurry aboard to try and evacuate the people who were still on board when it originally vanished. During this time, they keep seeing an apparition, a man in a life suit trying to signal to them. Who it is, we can't tell, because his face and head are covered with a breather unit, and because he keeps phasing in and out of view. They can't quite communicate with him. They barely manage to evacuate everyone before Babylon 4 finally phases out of existence completely, continuing on its journey to the future. At that moment, we, the viewer, see a shot inside the station as the mysterious figure removes his breather unit, and we see that it is Sinclair. Older, his hair white in places, a scar running the length of his face. He is in despair.
This, again,
Wow.
this plan, this level of detail with the, I mean, down to the scar in the hair and being older, down to the line he's about to say. That's one of the original things that I had in my head.
Yeah. and I
That's,
this whole episode, like Babylon Squared, was written before they ever flipped the camera to go.
You had to, though, right?
Mhm.
Like, you have to write the backstory to know where you are. And, you know, and here's the thing, great stories do this. We see this all the time in great literature. There's the story that we are doing now,
Mhm.
but there was also this story that happened a long time ago. And as our story is progressing, we're discovering that story back there. There's one that's the story that shall not be named
Right?
by the author who shall not be named. You guys know which one I'm talking about. That followed that exact same path. There's honestly Babylon 5.
There's one.
had that where we had to do that. I'm failing to think in this moment of all the various examples of that, but that's great literature.
Yeah.
That's great storytelling. Here's our story, and while we're doing our story, we're discovering the backstory, and by the time you get to the end, the two
Come together.
and make the big ending happen. So give the big ending.
I tried to tell them,
meaning.
to warn them, he says, but it happened just the way I remembered it. Just the way I remembered it. Then a woman's hand falls on his shoulder, and we hear her say, "It's time. We have to go." And with that, Babylon 4 vanishes again, continuing on its way.
There has to be such a feeling of satisfaction to any writer, who sits down, pen to paper, and puts this down, and then watch it become, especially in this case when it was like such a long time between like the idea, the conception, and then the actual thing. This had to be so satisfying.
Well, I had to sit there and be like, that's what was in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing what was in my imagination come to life.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
There's a version of this in my head where JMS is on set and this is happening and he's crying. Just like, oh my God. Yes. That'd be so cool.
The Shadow Men are revealed physically in Season 4 to be dark, demonic-looking things. But once again, appearances may be deceiving. They have fought for millennia against the influence of the Vorlons, fought to keep worlds free of their meddling. At least, that's their line, and we'll gradually discover that it's true, but only as far as it goes. They have their own agenda, one that includes ruling everything in sight. It's the line about those who would save us from communism also being quick to save us from democracy and for fascism.
Can we please
all
make
of which
that a
comes
quote
to a
right
head in
now?
Season 5, with the return of...
Also, I want to play that quote one more time, but before I do, I'm just going to say this to all of the people, and some of you I'm sure are watching or listening. Hey, stop talking about politics! Don't bring your politics into this show! Okay, well, let's, what's this?
But only as far as it goes. They have their own agenda, one that includes ruling everything in sight. It's the line about those who would save us from communism also being quick to save us from democracy and for fascism. All of which comes to a head in Season 5, with the return of Jakar, who reveals Londo's complicity and the Shadow Men intervention. At the same time, the Mimbari military caste, growing ever more worried about the way this is going, stage a coup and take control from the Grey Council. They order the exile of all council members, the death of Sinclair and Delen, and a resumption of hostilities against Earth. Londo assumes control of Babylon.
I gotta tell you, man, I like that story idea so much more than Delen just, and you're not a council anymore. Because Stone Cold Delen said so.
Well, she didn't say so. She just went in there and was like, follow me if you want to bust this thing up.
And
she walked out and they fought, and some of them followed her.
Breaks up the staff and then just takes off. I like that. Yeah, but
I hear what you're saying. It almost would have been too much. Like, because we already had, like, as far as Babylon 5, there's the Shadows, which we had just gotten over. There's the Centauri losing their stuff. There's the minions.
Mm-hmm.
There's Earth. You're gonna throw the Mimbari in on top of that as well. Like, I that almost feels like that just would have been too much narratively speaking of like trying to pull that thread. I hear what you're saying. I'm also glad that didn't become a thing in that particular moment of the show that we wound up getting.
I think we ended up getting the gist of it without the breaking up the council, exiling in the 2-episode Civil War arc, right? Which, to your point, here you get 2 episodes to do this thing, and they end up in the same place.
Yeah, as Andrew says, Jeff, I hear what you're saying, but you're wrong.
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah. except for the fact that like it would be better if Delen didn't just randomly do the thing. But
council, they order the exile of all council members, the death of Sinclair and Delen, and a resumption of hostilities against Earth. Londo assumes control of Babylon 5 sector of space in the name of the Centauri Republic. Earth contests this claim, and we break off relations with the Centauri.
It's big.
Shortly thereafter, a Vorlon ship, massive, hundreds of miles long, containing a large segment of their population, is destroyed by the Shadow Men with Londo's help. though without his knowledge that it would result in the death of hundreds of thousands of innocents.
Yeah.
Earth is blamed. Season 5 ends with an...
So did I understand that correctly? That Earth was blamed for the destruction of 100-mile big Vorlon ship.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
some good-
And Londo was complicit in it.
Yeah. So that's some good politicking by Londo. Like, hey, these guys that can't do this thing totally did this thing, and it's their fault.
Sure.
Earth is blamed. Season 5 ends with an assault on and the destruction of Babylon 5 by the Mimbari. Sinclair and Delen manage to escape with their...
By the Mimbari, not the Shadows.
Yes, yes. I have seen this again and again and again, that people say that the people that were attacking the station in Babylon Squared in that vision of the future, it was the Shadows. It was not the Shadows. It was, and purposely kept unclear, it was actually the Mimbari.
At this, yeah.
That was the big war here at the end of Babylon 5, that it was the Mimbari who were attacking the station, and Garibaldi's there with his big A gun going, I finally know what I'm here for.
Although I would say in Babylon Squared, it's still left to the viewer's imagination. Because I could make a case for it being Earth Force, make a case for it being the Shadows, make a case for the Mimbari.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, I think the road home kind of validated it was the Shadows.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and Nia points out by the time they filmed it, so when they filmed it, had JMS already thought, oh, that's the Shadows instead of the Mimbari? Or was it still the
Open.
Mimbari at that point when they filmed it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the original treatment, it was actually
It was
Mimbari.
the Mimbari.
Yeah.
newborn child as the station explodes behind them.
Oh, hold on. That was a big deal line.
Yeah.
Sinclair and Delen manage to escape with their newborn child as the station explodes behind them. They are now wanted by everyone in the galaxy, it would seem.
Katerina makes a really great point in the chat that when
yeah.
Lady Ladira had her vision,
Uh-huh.
was it because the Mimbari were going to blow up the station?
Oh.
By Earth, which has been given information leading them to believe that he is a traitor. By the ruling Mimbari warrior caste, who want to eliminate what they believe is a threat to their own race. To some
All the way
extent
back to
by
the
Londo
beginning.
and the Centauri, because Sinclair knows, or at least suspects, who was truly responsible for the hundreds of thousands of Vorlon deaths, and by the Vorlons for presumably being one of those involved in the conspiracy. This ends the story of Babylon 5.
Big words. Spoiler alert, we're not done
No.
with this at all. But Babylon 5. So we end up in such a different place in the actual end of Babylon 5
Yes.
than here.
Yes.
Like, I feel like in a lot of ways this is season 3, 4-ish.
I was gonna say, I gotta tell you, spoiler alert to my overall thought. This is a very interesting treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm sad for the conditions that forced Michael O'Hara off the show, the change in that character wrought a lot of changes. And I think the changes that we got that altered the story, we got a better story with what was actually put on screen than this original treatment overall. Like I think overall we got a better treatment, because I got to tell you, I'm trying to imagine myself investing in this show for 5 years, and we get all the way to the end and Babylon 5 just explodes because the Mimbari are attacking it, and that's the resolution. I would be very unsatisfied if that was the end of that show.
Yes.
Like, the story's not done.
It's just getting
Story's-
started.
Like you didn't stop at denouement. You stopped at climax, or you stopped at rising action or something. Like, I still feel like that's where we are in this story. We're not done yet. And if that's where we stopped, so yeah.
Andrew in the chat I was thinking the same thing. He says the treatment has season 1 pacing, not the actual season 2 through 5. I think of this treatment, and I think it's incredibly captivating and fascinating with a disappointing end, but 5 seasons to tell this story would have been a slog. Maybe not Robert Jordan level slog, but
Mhm.
I think it's not enough for
But-
5.
But
seasons.
that being said, to JMS's original question, does the story work as a story?
It 100% does.
It absolutely does, especially when you take into account what's going to happen next,
Exactly.
because that's still the rest of the story. Like, to me, this is all one story.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because this isn't the end.
Yes. Quick aside, there is a character that is going to feature very heavily in the next segment, the rest of the show, whom we never got in the show at all.
Right.
We got no analog. This was a character in our show. We just never saw him at all. I couldn't even pull somebody else. So, quick side, I'm trying to figure out how do I do this, and I realized something, that this character is actually the same character from a completely separate franchise, and when you think about it, it works. So, y'all enjoy this next little bit, because and especially this is a nod to JMS and people that he would work with on a future series. And your headcanon could be that they took their story from him, because I think this could be the story.
Okay.
This could be the story of the child of the one.
The ones,
Or
the two of
whatever.
the ones, at least, or
Yeah.
the ones.
Yeah. Anyway, let's jump into it.
Okay. I'm nervous, excited, anxious.
Should the series prove successful, it would be followed by a spin-off series, Babylon Prime. In brief, Sinclair, Delen, their infant, Garibaldi, and a Narn, a friend or relative of Jakar's who has come to help them. After all, the
Talon.
Narn have no one else left to turn to, and Sinclair
I'm assuming
tried to
that
do what
Jakar
he
was
could in the
gonna
past
die.
for them. Make their way
I think so too.
to a meeting with the Grey Council, now in exile. Sinclair et al. Have no place to go, no home, no resources, nothing. The Grey Council is infuriatingly unconcerned. All of this is in the prophecy, if you know where to look and how to interpret it. Sinclair's line is that it would have been a lot easier if they'd known this beforehand.
Yeah.
But like all scriptures, they can only be correctly interpreted after it's all taken place.
There it
See
is.
our earlier comment.
What
on
is
that.
required now is a base of operations, a beacon of hope. War is raging on all sides. This must be a place where those who want to create peace can come together. They are able to pull Babylon 4 forward in time. In this,
Wouldn't it be awesome? Instead of calling this
Mhm.
Babylon Prime, he called it Babylon 4. So Babylon 5, followed up by its sequel, Babylon 4.
Is it a
their base
prequel? Oh,
Right? No, it's the next stage in the story.
right.
of operations, because B4 was different than B5 in one respect. It had the capacity for movement. It is also a starship.
I didn't know
Sinclair
that.
and
Yeah, I
Delen
didn't either.
supervised the attempt. They managed to get onto Babylon 4 and sound an alert, hoping to get everyone off the station. Before everyone can evacuate, however, the time field, which is terribly unstable, rips them forward. They manage to stop the process briefly, long enough for the rest to get off the station. We now see the original Babylon 4 appearance from the other side, as our present Sinclair tries to warn his past version of what is to come. Again, without success.
War Without End.
So one of the stories that we've often heard is War Without End was actually going to be the finale of Babylon 5.
yeah.
But according to this, it actually was all the way in Babylon Prime.
Yeah, way into
Wasn't
it.
even a part of Babylon 5.
I gotta
So-
say, Ian in the chat is great. This is the story of the last of the Babylon stations, except for the previous Babylon station.
There are other time distortions taking place. This is not something men were meant to do. Sinclair is aging, quickly, as is Delen. They managed to counter most of the effects, though it has shaved years off their lives, and finally return to their own time with
B5 is
Babylon
going
4
forward in
intact,
time, not backward.
now named Babylon Prime.
There we go.
They take Babylon Prime on a journey to clear Sinclair's name and provide a place for those trying to make peace in a warring galaxy.
I got to tell you, if the whole series was really about just trying to clear Sinclair's name,
Yeah,
I would have been less interested in that.
I agree.
You know, like really, if that's just it, just trying to clear his name. Like if that's an aside, fine.
Or
But
like
like
3-episode arc, you know, or a
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, cool. But
yeah.
Constantly on the run from hunters and military assault teams, Babylon Prime is their refuge, their sanctuary, and when required, their warship. At one point, early in their travels, they run across Londo, who is a puppet leader of the Centauri Republic, linked to a creature that reports his every action to the Shadow Men. Under its supervision, he must turn them in, but rebels at a terrible personal cost to help them escape. He deeply regrets all that has happened and hopes in some way to make up for it.
so Londo is always a tragic hero.
Boys. Yeah.
Along the way, they discover one other side effect of their attempt to bring Babylon 4 into the present. The son of Delen and Sinclair is aging quickly. They are gradually able to stop the aging process, but by then the son is nearly a grown man. They are able to cyberlink into him all of the information a man would need.
For our audio listeners,
Oh yeah, the audio listeners have no idea what's going on right now.
Brent chose to show David as the one,
He's the one.
Neo.
He's the one.
It's Keanu Reeves, man.
But it makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Everything they're describing here is what happens in the Matrix. The Wachowskis ripped off JMS when they made the Matrix,
Oh my God.
and they worked together later on Sense8.
Can we take just a second to analyze that, right? Because we've since
Yes.
learned how the Wachowskis, the Matrix is an allegory for being trans.
Really?
Yeah. The whole
didn't know that.
story.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It's actually like when, especially to hear it from them when they tell the story, like it's like it's very beautiful. But with Babylon 5, Babylon 5 influenced miles of sci-fi. So your headcanon that Neo is the continuation of all of this, continuing that allegory, Brent, I think you nailed it.
Just saying.
They are able to cyberlink into him all of the information a man would need, but the emotional development is not there. He is as
Also
innocent
Keanu
as a
Reeves.
child
He's
would
innocent. He's innocent. He didn't punch him. He's
be.
innocent.
Soon the sun becomes a revered symbol, a religious symbol. To others, focus of the prophecy. The boy band whose birth signals a time when various species would come together, making a new golden age. Consequently, the sun is prey to frequent assassination attempts. Along the line, the sun continues to grow and learn and become something greater than human.
Right?
The story of
Wow.
Babylon Prime
Wow.
ends with the formation
It
of
works.
new alliances and a final great war in which Babylon 4 is a prime player. The Shadow Men are finally conquered. The Mimbari are defeated by Earth, which clears Sinclair's name. Delen takes her leave to rejoin the Grey Council, departing from Sinclair's side, possibly forever. Their son takes his place as head of a new alliance, promising peace for the first
son
time.
right there.
He is able to command political and religious leaders in a consortium of power.
Doesn't mean it's easy.
Sinclair, at this stage of his life, finally retires from the chase, from the long battle. His last scene, the last in the story of Babylon Prime, is as he is left, alone, as he requested, on a green and quiet world, otherwise uninhabited, sitting beside the shore, fishing.
What is he, Jack O'Neill?
I that was the first thing I wanted Jack O'Neill. The problem is every time we see Jack actually by his lake, there's people always with him. He's not alone.
Oh, yeah.
But I would have 100% put in that thing from Jack O'Neill.
The only thing I would have loved better with that ending is instead if he added just added 5 words. Him fishing and watching the sunset.
Oh,
Like planting that seed
yeah,
all the way.
yeah.
There's some conversation in the chat. Alyssa brought it up. That story of David, I completely agree. Like that's such a great pull, Brent, to bring the Matrix in and Neo. But it's also really the story of Dune,
Yeah,
where
I knew you'd say that.
yeah, Paul and Chani have Leto II, who
Uh-huh.
is innocent and is open to this whole thing and grows and learns these things and becomes something more than human, forming an alliance that destroys and brings everyone together, sort of a thing.
I want to talk about this particular shot real quick.
Okay.
And JMS, if you're out there, I would love an answer to this. This is a shot, and I'm going to try to describe this for our audio listeners. This is from War Without End Part 2, I want to say it was. And what's happening is we're on a White Star, and Sheridan and Delen are sitting right next to each other, and the camera is in front of Sheridan and Delen, and stuff's happening. Sinclair is in the background. Okay. And the way they have the shot framed, stuff's happening, and Sheridan reaches out his hand and he grabs, and him and Delen clasp hands, and they kind of like have a moment, and between their arms, the shot is like going in between their hands, or like in between their arms, and focusing. And Sinclair turns around and looks and gives this smile, like a okay. And I got the feeling when I saw that shot, Delen was supposed to be his girl.
Right? All along.
You know, now now in the show that we got, they never had that relationship.
No.
But Delen was supposed to be his girl. And now she's Sheridan's girl. Right? And I kind of gotta wonder if this particular shot might have even been a little prescribed by JMS.
Oh.
As sort of like a nod of approval.
A little Easter egg
Like
almost.
You're taking care of her. Like, you know what I mean? Like I really wonder if there's that, because the shot is so intentional, it seems, you know, and I said earlier that there was in this show, when we did our first watch of War Without End, there's this moment where Sinclair comes down the steps, and I forget the exact words he says, but he looks at Sheridan and he's like, "Hey, thanks for taking care of her." And that it was almost metaphorical of like how he's saying to Bruce Box, of how Michael O'Hara is saying to Bruce Boxleitner, "Thanks for taking care of my show."
Right.
Like there's that, but there's this one who within character, like she never was his girl, but the idea was that was going to be his girl. And like, I wonder if that's this particular shot, what this is all about.
I love that. That's such
I did too.
In the capture here of it too, like you can see it, like there's an acceptance, there's a longing in his face as he's, you know, he's like, yeah, this is good. Also, I kind of wish I was still a part of that. Yeah.
Jeff, I need you to check something out. Our friend, Andrew, who I believe sent you the scripts. Now he sent you more than I got. He says that in the script book, JMS says that I'm right.
Oh, that
I need you to go find the War Without End scripts, and I need you to just, you don't have to do it right now.
Oh no, it's going to take some time.
But relay to me and let me know. I would love to know exactly what that is.
Okay, cool.
I really would. I'd love to know, because I haven't seen it yet. So anyway, all right. That's the video.
That's it.
We get all the way to the end. He's fishing. It ends with him fishing. By the way, trying to find these two shots right here.
Yeah.
Hardest two shots to find of the whole freaking video, because just it was so hard to find.
It's good work. You're like, hey, I need to find this video, and I found a couple not great ones.
Yeah, one person wanted $40 for their video. I was like,
right.
No.
Yeah, I don't have that much.
Anyway, that's the video from JMS, or well, the video from us. That's the story from JMS.
So before we talk about the content,
yeah,
dude, you did such a great job.
Thank you.
Really good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you're an audio listener, we love you listening to us on an audio thing. Go to YouTube and watch the video.
Yeah,
like you watch this, but
we'll put this video out as a solo video.
Yeah,
it'll go out as a solo video for sure. So and I want this video out for the fandom. Like, because people will come watch us, listen to us.
Yeah,
some of them. A lot of people will watch just that video.
Totally.
And not worry about what you and I have to say.
Yeah.
Like, and it'll be the video. It won't be you and I talking about it and pausing it and making a 22-minute video last an hour.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Or so.
So, and I seeing all the comments in the chat room. Thank you, everybody over there. I appreciate it. And Andrew says, actually, JMS mentions me in the book, since we're time travelers. And
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we finally got our due.
Yeah.
At least 40% of the good stuff that came in the final product was thanks to you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Jeff, I actually have quite a few notes that I just kind of stopped talking
Okay.
I have several notes of things that were pointed out that I'd love to kind of go through.
Okay, let's hit it.
All right. By the way, I didn't realize this until we were watching it. There's actually a paragraph missing out of the video,
Oh, was there?
and I'm not sure why
Yeah.
it's missing. There was a whole paragraph about Garibaldi,
Oh, you're right.
and it just completely I don't know how it got missed in our recording of this.
And I found
So
this
I apologize for that happening.
I found this fascinating. So some of the legend that has been told was that JMS kind of did the drinking, going back to his drinking as an at Jerry Doyle
Yeah.
sort of a thing. But this paragraph makes me think otherwise.
Well, I think it's probably, I think, well, anyway, here's what the paragraph says. It says, also, during the season 3 and 4 bridge, Garibaldi will begin to slip back into his drinking problem, which this was actually the season 4-5 bridge with what the show that we got. It will cause him to throw down his badge and resign as chief of Babylon 5 security for most of season 4. Actually, this does happen in season 4. Coming back only at the very end of that season when he is needed most. In other words, he's Han Solo.
Right.
In the intervening period, he will be a mercenary for hire operating out of the B5 Bazaar.
The bazaar.
Bazaar,
I
not
like-
the Zocalo.
I like that they
The
went Zocalo.
Bazaar. Right? So anyway, so I apologize for that missing out of the video. I don't know that I'll be able to go back and insert it. We'll see. Actually, I'm gonna really try to make it a point. I'm gonna call the guy and say, hey, you missed this paragraph. Anyway, but I had that note. Garibaldi had a drinking problem in the original treatment, but JMS also said that he put that in because he was trying to send a message to Doyle in real life. I wonder if maybe he hit it a lot harder than he would have otherwise because of Jerry's personal drinking problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of this is really what happened with Garibaldi. He left.
yeah,
There, and then
that's his arc. Yeah.
He was kind of a mercenary, except he wasn't going off like doing fighting. He was, searching for stuff. But
Exactly. Couple other pieces we had here. In the show, what we got in the show was the death of one Vorlon, Kosh Naranik, sent the entire Vorlon species into a tailspin.
yeah,
Like the Vorlon were just pretty straight and narrow until one of their own died, and then they
all hands
went
on
ape
deck.
shit.
Mhm.
Yeah. In the original treatment, however, it was the death of over 100,000 of them
Yes.
that and then they blamed Earth for it.
And were
Like-
defined as the loss of hundreds of thousands of innocent lives.
Yeah.
It's a very different impression than what we got of the Vorlon.
Right. So I thought that was a super interesting change between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But as Kosh 2 Electro Boogaloo says, or maybe the first one does, we're all Kosh.
Oh, you know what? I wonder if that's kind of the little touchstone on that.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Speaking of which, one of the things, I don't think we've talked about this a whole lot on the show. When we went through that whole process, do you remember all the people on our Discord channel? Like, they all changed their name to Kosh.
Yeah.
We just had like 100 people was just Kosh. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Right.
Like, we didn't know what was happening at the time. So shout out to you guys over on Discord. Lorian was not in this treatment at all.
There really wasn't discussion of first ones or anything like that.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that they wouldn't have, here's the thing I think we've got to be careful of saying, if Michael O'Hare had stayed, this is the show we would have gotten.
Yeah, no.
That's not necessarily true either. I think we even see from episode 1 of from The Gathering through Chrysalis, there's changes,
Dramatic changes
to some of these storylines. So it's not necessarily going to have been, but if this had been the one, we didn't get any mention of Lorian. He could have still become a thing.
Yeah.
Psycor, I think, would have actually been an even bigger, had a bigger role than they wound up having.
Yeah, because they were talking about pulling all the strings in the government, where in the final we saw them moving towards that. To your point, this is 7 pages
Yeah.
of a 10-year story arc. to describe
Right.
it. So there's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not in there.
Yeah, let's be careful about it, pontificating, I guess, to being too critical
Yeah.
of a thing that is, this was the treatment just to see if the overall. Here's a question. Let's start with here. JMS had a goal to see if the story worked as a story.
Yep.
It does.
It does.
The story worked as a story. Congratulations. Like your mission. God, that sounds way more crappy than I mean for it to. Congratulations. It worked.
Hey,
Your idea holds water.
but
Turns
I
out
need
you're a
you
good storyteller.
I need you to pause and
Okay.
look at our Patreon chat really quick.
Okay.
They are all Kosh.
They're all turning into Kosh. That's awesome. you guys, you guys make me laugh.
So great.
I love you guys so much. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Babylon Prime storyline. As I make a little change in my note here real quick. So the key characters was Sinclair Delen, the Offspring, Garibaldi, and an army. Here's the way I initially, he said a Narn. I kind of got the idea that it was all of the Narn.
Oh, really?
Like
No.
because Narn got destroyed. This would be like all the Narn who have been displaced, and so their army is the Narn.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
okay.
that
would have been cool.
I don't think that that's necessarily what JMS was getting at. I'm just saying in my head as I read it the first time, I was like, that's where I thought this was going. Was the station is now the home of basically all the remaining Narn in the universe to go be their army.
I read it very much like it's Talon.
As in the video, it was just Talon. Yeah. So here's the thing. Babylon 4 was supposed to be a starship that could move around.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
The whole thing about setting this on a station for Babylon 5 was it saves money because you can use standing sets and you don't have to keep building new stuff.
Right.
If the show had been a success and they got picked up, I wonder how much more money he was planning on getting.
They spending a lot of money on this
because now you're going to go travel to other places.
Other places and times.
Right? Well, I mean, that's what Crusade was in many ways. Was a ship traveling, right? So, you have a book in your hand there, Jeff.
Oh, I'm just following along.
Oh, okay, I got you. So the old Sinclair that we got wasn't really that old.
No,
he wasn't actually an old Sinclair. He was aged because of time shenanigans. Right?
And that's actually how, so the explanation into Dream in the City of Sorrows, that's what happened to him. He got the scar and aged because he and two other Rangers, one Catherine Sakai, one Marcus, and I can't remember Marcus's last name, but just Marcus is enough, went out back to the time thing because the Drazi, not the Drazi, but the Drak were messing with the time portal, essentially. The Shadows and the Drak messing with the time portal there. So they went to go try and disrupt that, destroy the shadow device that was holding stuff and making things happen. And in that, he got aged. And then when a certain ship blew up, shrapnel hit him in the face.
Shrapnel?
Yeah, I'm not going to say exactly what happened because it's kind of a big deal thing. Marcus Cole, thank you, Nia. I can't believe I forgot that.
There you go.
Shame on me. I always just write his name as Marcus Akin over and over. So
there you go. So we get a fully grown David, and I'm gonna call him David because that was the name of the child between Sheridan and Delen.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't know that would have been his name then. Neo.
Yep.
He has the body and knowledge of a grown man, but the emotional innocence of a 2-year-old, effectively.
Yeah.
Right. Is what he says.
Alia of the knife.
I'm not sure that I fully see what JMS's vision was for that. Like a fully grown man acting like a child. Basically, we're talking about Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory.
Maybe, except without the snark. I almost think of it as like he wants that.
I don't know. Have you ever met a 2-year-old Jeff?
It's a good point, but I think he was looking for like just that innocence and curiosity. You know, like awkward social situations, essentially.
Yeah,
would be the storytelling device.
There you go. So David would be able to combine political and religious leaders to control them. He would be able to control political and religious leaders because of who he is. we're getting really close to absolute power here.
Oh yeah.
And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Is his saving grace the fact that he's a kid and he's innocent?
Oh, that could be the whole point, right?
Like, because otherwise I feel like that could go bad real quick. Like real quick.
It's very much to the earlier points. This is the story of God Emperor of Dune.
Mm. I like the story of Londo Malari a lot better.
You really?
Because a lot of times we say Babylon 5 is actually the story of Londo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear people say that quite a bit. All right, so here we go. In the end, and after this, I want to talk about the Vorlon and Shadows.
Yeah.
So be prepared. Be prepared. In the end, the Mimbari are effectively gone.
Yes.
Or whatever they are. Okay. Sinclair and Delen split up. Delen leaves Sinclair's side to go do the council and says she may never see him again.
That's a little weird.
The Narn are decimated. The Centauri are in control, but they themselves are shadow controlled. The Psychor is still around controlling Earth. The Shadows are finished, but the Vorlon are possibly still around.
It was interesting. That was interesting.
And David has consolidated power over everyone, but he's bringing peace.
Yeah.
That's where we wind up at the end of the show. Like,
it was interesting to me that it pointed out the Shadows are defeated.
And not the Vorlon.
Mm-hmm. Although
did not say anything about the Vorlon being defeated.
I wonder if,
outside of they got blown up.
That's what I wonder if it was kind of almost an extinction level event and took them wiped them out of the story. But yeah, that's the story of Babylon 5 to Prime.
David is Harcesis, Brent says.
I saw that
in the chat.
It's great.
You know what that means.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So very interesting. Original idea for where they were going with everything and what would have happened. I even love the fact that he had a plan for, hey, listen, if this works out, here's where I'm going next.
Totally, yeah.
Because the story's not done. Here's part 2 to the story.
What a great sales pitch, too. Hey, buy this thing from me, and you have up to 10 years of programming.
Exactly. And if it doesn't work, then we'll cut it short and I'll wrap it up.
Exactly. Turns out I can do it in 4 if I have to.
Right. All the Londo getting a keeper and all that kind of stuff, that all gets pushed to Babylon Prime. That's not a part of our original Babylon 5 story. So that was very interesting. All right. You said here, and I note that JMS says the Shadows are defeated, but he doesn't mention the Vorlons. Mm-hmm. Let's have the conversation in its full authority that we have here at Bad Nerds and For the First Times and all this sort of stuff.
All right.
The question is, are the Vorlons good and are the Shadows evil? And if so, to what degree? Now, I will take the place and I will take the argument that while they are not the altruistic, benevolent angels of deity that they may appear to be, the Vorlons are still not evil.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people are jumping, oh, they're just so bad because they're using da-da-da. And the Shadows are still evil.
Okay.
The Shadows are evil and they are wrong. That is the position I am going to take. Jeff, where are you? Just so we know.
I am in the position of there's the yin and there's the yang. Neither is good, neither is bad. They are both two extreme sides of the spectrum.
See, here's the thing. All right, and this is more falling back a little bit more on stuff that we got in the show, also backed up by what JMS puts in his treatment for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The basic idea is they have differing ideas of how to push civilization along.
Yeah.
Right? The Vorlons say you do it through art and poetry and culture, and the Shadows say no, it's through war and survival of the fittest, and that way.
So I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree with the Vorlon assessment. I think they say you do it through order and homogenization and in a very ordered, specific path, step 1, step 2, step 3, where the Shadows, you're right, they're more about survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Conflict creates growth, things like that.
I think I don't think it's that, but I could be wrong. And maybe you're right. But regardless, here's the line. Let me read it from the thing here. I should find it in here. I don't even have to read it from the thing here because it says, talking about the shadows, they have their own agenda that includes ruling everything in sight.
Mm-hmm.
That is never said about the Vorlon.
Oh no, I disagree with that. Oh, lost my book.
Look it up. The Vorlon are not trying to rule everybody for their own purposes. They are not trying to be the kings. They are trying to help people along. Now, I agree with JMS. They might be right. They might not be right. It might not be the right path. It might not be the path that you want to take. But they are doing it from a spot of trying to help you. Here's the thing. Okay. As a parent, and it's one of the reasons why I put the shot of Franklin and his dad in there when they talked about, it may not always be the right thing. As a parent, listen, I am trying to help my kid become a better human being. I'm not trying to raise a kid. I'm trying to raise an adult. Does that make sense? And I am teaching my kids certain ways of thinking and certain ways of being. And that's different from the way you're teaching your children, Jude, Jeff, whatever the heck your name is, which is different from the way other people do. Yeah. And that's not to say that my way is better than your way or anything like that. It's just, this is how I'm doing it. Okay. But the point is, I'm doing to my children what the Vorlon are trying to do to the rest of creation out there.
Yeah.
Versus what the shadows are trying to do, which is to come in and rule and lord over and subjugate everybody.
So I read from the book here as well.
Yes.
The Vorlons have a propensity for mucking about.
Sure.
They have an attitude of we know best and have been to various extents. They are the puppet masters, pulling the strings here and there for millennia, creating what they consider to be the right context for civilizations.
Sure. Creating what they consider to be the right context for civilization.
The same thing the shadows are doing.
I don't think
it's
so.
what they think is the best context.
Yeah, but it's not about them being in power. It's not about them being in control. It's allowing those cultures and those societies to grow and develop according to the way that we think that they should grow and develop.
Right.
But we're still going to let them grow and develop. And if they don't, as Kosh said, well, hey, who should go away? Who's whatever? Is it the Narn or the Centauri? And he goes, yes. Because if they're not, then we should just allow them to die. Right. And that's allowing them to die. That's not killing them. Now, Deathwalker was a different situation.
Yeah.
Versus the shadows will come in and take you out if you're not doing what they want you to do. The shadows are an imminent threat to your life. The Vorlons are just trying to control what you do with your life. And I know that might be a fine, subtle difference, but I think I don't think the Vorlon are, that's what I'm saying. I'm not, and don't hear me wrong, I'm not saying that the Vorlons are altruistic and that they're benevolent and that they're good. What I'm saying is the Vorlons are not evil, and I think the shadows are still evil.
Are you familiar with Orwell's 1984?
Somewhat familiar. I've not read it, but I've read the Cliff Notes versions of it.
Any of Ayn Rand's stuff? Anthem? No. Okay. So I feel like I would say that the shadows are going to come in and they're going to just blow stuff up. We kill it. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. They're going to come in and have other people blow your stuff up, right? They manipulate and they move things. They might come do some of it. The Vorlons are going to create a world like 1984, like the world in Ayn Rand's Anthem, where everyone does what we think they should do. What does they say in Rush 2112, second part, Temples of Syrinx? We've taken care of everything. The words you hear, the songs you sing, the pictures that are placarded to your wall. Like, that's the Vorlons. We're going to come in, we're not going to do it, but we're going to make sure you do it so it's everything that we want. One is immediate and violent. The other can last millennia and be insidious and disgusting and take all of your individuality away. I think they're both awful and great. And I think the message is we need both. And Trey has brought this up a number of times, one of our council chambers members. It's not one or the other. It's shades of both.
Yeah, but I hear that and I'm with you. except to say that the shade of the shadows is a whole lot darker to me than the shade of the
Oh
Vorlons.
man, I don't know.
They're a lot further on the black scale than they are in the gray scale to me.
I almost feel like I would rather get blowed up than be subjugated for generations. I mean, there's hope at the end of that one, right? Maybe, you know,
But that's the thing is, and again, I feel like we're circling the drain here because you and I clearly have different ideas of what the Vorlon goal and what their method for going about is different. So where I'm coming from and my thought process is different from where you're coming from in your thought process because we just understand those two differently, and that's okay. But the Vorlon, again, I don't get the idea that the Vorlon are inherently evil,
right.
as much as they're just trying to control folks and they're trying to make people become a thing that they may not necessarily need to become. And that is something, by the way, that we should avoid. That we should not. I'm not saying we should be like the Vorlon. Okay. In fact, don't be like the Vorlon. Don't do that. I'm not saying do that. In fact, Jeff, I think. Well, hold on. I have to say this. Can we put a pin in this particular conversation? Come back to it in just a second.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I gotta finish this other conversation. Delen. Let's talk about Delen.
Oh yeah, you warned me about this.
Oh my word. Okay, so Delen, his whole job is to come onto the station and go, "You're either it or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are, I'm gonna turn into a girl and we're gonna have a baby together to save my race, or I'm gonna kill you."
Yeah, one or the other.
And they go path A, and Delen lies in wait until the current girl is put asunder. Now, I have all sorts of questions about the mind rape and what happened there, because we know the Mimbari have their own telepaths.
Right.
Just saying,
Mm-hmm.
It could have happened that way. Not saying it did. It could have. And she slid in like a snake.
Yeah.
Oh, and then when she had him in her grasp and she got the seed and she had a baby and this thing was there, she left.
She takes off. Nope.
Said, "I might never see you again. Deuces."
Right.
There's no love. There's no honor. That is awful.
It's horrible.
That is awful.
Flipping that with
take it to that extreme.
One of the most earned romances in sci-fi between Sheridan and Delen.
Say it again, Jeff.
One of the most earned romances in sci-fi.
Stop. One of the most earned romances in all of television history.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
Is that of Sheridan and Delen. You're absolutely right. But the other relationship?
Yeah, no. Oh. That's not good. That's not good. Okay. The other relationship is why we have a family law system in this country.
Okay, let's go back to the pin. The whole thing about the Vorlon in the shadows. I think this brings us to this particular part of the show, Jeff.
Okay.
Where we examine for messages. Now, I got 3 very specific messages from JMS in this specific storyline. Here's the first one that I got. Appearances can be deceiving. What someone else wants for your life may not be what you want or what is necessarily correct. That is literally the line about the Vorlons.
Right there.
And that's 100% true. As a parent, that is a warning to me. That I have to let my kids grow and become their own person. That is not who I think necessarily they should be. Now, I can have hopes. That doesn't mean I can't have hopes. I can't have dreams. That doesn't mean any of that sort of stuff. Doesn't mean I can't instill values in them that I hopefully think are correct. But they, at some point, are going to have to grapple with the things that I have taught them and go, is what mom and dad said true or false? And what is my value system going to be? And I have to accept that.
Yeah.
As a parent. Also, we can apply that to bosses, pastors, government leaders,
right?
All of the above.
Yeah, everyone.
That appearances can be deceiving because what someone else wants for your life may not necessarily be what you really want or what is correct. I got a second message, Jeff.
Okay.
Don't be fascist.
There's that, right? Don't be a fascist.
That was in the show too.
They outright said
That was
it.
literally the whole show.
Yeah.
Don't be a fascist. I want this quote online right now on a plaque, and I need JMS to give me the actual quote so I can quote him, because otherwise it doesn't work if I pull it out. It's literally as he has it written here. But it says, don't try to save us from communism and turn around and try to save us from democracy for the sake of fascism.
Right.
How much is that true? People try to save you from communism and in turn save you from democracy. You'll never have to vote again.
Yeah, so simple.
Trust me, I'm the one.
I got this.
And now you better not dissent or I'll disappear you. See our earlier conversation about politics. It's in the show, folks. I got one more message, Jeff.
Okay.
Which this is personal to me. Be wary of prophecies.
Yeah.
Because they can only be correctly interpreted after the fact.
Afterwards.
I've been saying that for years. So those are the messages I got out of this. Jeff, did you have anything on your side?
I think that last one, the fascism one for sure, but I think that big thing for me, I rang big from his prophecy. All of this stuff went down because they disagreed about a prophecy. I mean, the shadows and all that stuff happened over here on the side, but so much of the story was Sinclair and Delen, and it's all because they're like, well, we think there's this prophecy. No, we think it's this. Boom. Conflict.
And here he is at the center of that. And turns out it wasn't even them.
Right?
It was their kid, who's Neo from the Matrix.
Yeah. That's the other thing. If you think you're the one, you're probably not.
But your kid might be.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure you're raising them in a way.
Well, it's the Star Wars thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the one that the prophecy was about? Was it about Anakin? Or was it really about Luke?
Well,
or was it about Rey?
George Lucas and his treatment, it was about Leia.
Really?
Yeah, his sequel would have had it be that Leia would actually bring balance to the Force.
I've not heard that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Jeff.
Brent.
We usually have a responsibility at this point to place this in our 100% completely accurate and definitive ranking of whatever season of Babylon 5 we're in.
We do.
I have labeled this the 23rd episode of season 1.
Yeah? Okay.
So I don't know. Do we want to place it, or do we want to compare it to the overall Babylon 5 story that we got?
I was going to say, I have a proposal, and that is that we rank Babylon 5 versus the pitch.
Okay. Can I do this one really quick for you?
Let's say it together, right? In 3, 2, 1. Babylon 5. Yes.
Absolutely. Because listen, we love Babylon 5. Yeah. It's a phenomenal show. It says so much. It does all the stuff that you and I pontificate on and say that sci-fi should do. It's just good TV. And it holds up.
Totally holds up.
It holds up so well. And man, I know JMS. I know he's over in London right now as we record this, trying to get some stuff going on over there. And I know so many people have said it, but I hope, I know you're not necessarily 100%. I would be so interested to know what he does with this on a reboot, a true reboot, like not telling the story all over again, but doing something. I'd be so interested to know. Yeah. So we got such a good show. And you know what? We wouldn't have had the show that we got had it not been for this.
Right. Just the idea.
This is the story. Okay, let's go back to where we started. JMS put all this out to show us how a story is crafted. And you know what? It starts with an idea. And you know what? Here's your lesson. Here's your message. The story that you get in the end may not necessarily be the same thing as your idea.
Exactly.
And that's okay. Because it changes and it evolves and it grows, and you never know what's going to happen when you're writing a story. Jeff, I don't know if you've ever written a story, but if you're writing a story, you can have an idea as a writer of where you want to go, and sometimes the characters look at you and say, "Stupid, that's not what I say. I'm saying this."
Yeah.
And I'm not walking into that door that you want me into. I'm going to go do this other thing, because the characters kind of come up to life in your head, and they do. And I imagine it's the same thing in TV.
Cartagia died at Veer's hand because Veer said he was going to do it. That's the real Babylon 5 example. And
Yeah.
what I think is, we've talked about a little bit, the brilliance of JMS, and that he wrote this in a way to allow it to breathe and allow it to evolve. The original, the founder of Netflix has this incredible quote that I use often. It's no business plan survives its first customer. That's what happens here. He wrote this in his own mind, went through revisions and stuff, whatever, but it was world according to him. Then it got exposed to reality, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to do this. Just, oh, here's some great inspiration. We're going to do this. What it says to me is that Babylon 5 is a complete and whole idea that was allowed to live and breathe.
Oh, say it again, Jeff. That's so good. Say it again.
Babylon 5 is a complete and fully formed idea that was allowed to live and breathe.
Perfect. And you know what? It takes a master, and it takes a person, frankly, with a lot of maturity to allow their work to do that.
Maturity and humility.
Yeah.
Understand.
A dream taken form.
A dream yes. Love it. It's so good.
All right, Jeff. Well, here we are, an hour and 54 minutes on our recording schedule.
On what was going to be our shorter episode.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it.
I think so.
That's it for the original treatment. We've done our deep dive into the whole thing, and we discovered that David is Neo. I think that's the biggest takeaway I'm taking.
100%.
It works. Saying. Next week we're back at it though.
Yep.
Babylon 5 for the second time is rolling ahead. We're gonna have a new commander of the station.
We are. And
we're gonna have we got a little bit of a reset, as happens when your series lead especially changes. So we'll go through all of those. Jeff, we got to listen to our old episodes and recap everything. We're going to dive into the Lurker's Guide and what JMS says about stuff. But Jeff, as we are looking ahead to next week's episode, Points of Departure, I'm curious. You're at this point during our first run. Do you remember what your prediction was, what you thought this episode might be about?
Yeah, I felt like Points of Departure was going to be about 6 months into the future.
Mm-hmm.
The points of departure themselves are going to be Earth focusing on the changes that President Clark has been making the last couple of months. Thought it was really going to be focused on the Clark stuff. What did you think it was going to be about?
I said that this is going to be an episode where everybody splits. That, like, because Babylon 5 was like the last best hope for peace, where everybody's going to come together. So this is the thing where everybody's going to split, and kind of go their own way. Like Mimbari is going to go that way, and the Earth is going to go this way, and the Centauri are going to go that way, and the Narn are going to go another way. And kind of like from all the political alliances were going to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
They literally are going to depart from each other, because eventually, how do you come together if you haven't gone apart?
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's what this was going to be about, and turns out not so much.
You're a good guesser, Brent.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Oh man, well, we're going to find out just how close or how far away we were right here next week when we watch Points of Departure. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're watching us, listening to us. Leave a rating, leave a review, do all of that really great stuff. Please share this show. In fact, if you know someone who loves Babylon 5 but isn't aware of the original 5-year arc or the Babylon Prime piece, what an incredible opportunity for you to share this with that fan of Babylon 5 so they can have their eyes opened up to this incredible series. So until next time,
Jeff?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, you want to see something cool?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I know Kung Fu.
For crying out loud, man.
Now, see, if you stick around because you guys are here for the live recording, we're still here.
We are still here. The whole time.
Sure.
We were here we were always here.
We were always here. We have always been here. That's very true. Hey, listen, if you guys are still here, wow, you guys are all still here.
I know.
I think like 2 people dropped out.
It's pretty nuts.
Club 65.
What's
Yeah,
up?
baby. Listen, we've been here for 2 hours, so I don't want to stay too terribly.
I agree. Yeah, people have been fantastic.
People got to get up and go. But you guys, listen, thank you guys so much for showing up. It's fun having you guys here.
It is so much fun.
It really is. You know, I know not everybody can come up to the council chambers. We can't do this all the time. Like, we only have so many seats that we can put out there for it. So we can't do this all the time, but you know, we're glad to be able to make this available every once in a while, and hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to try to come up to council chambers, feel free. We would love to have you, get to know you a little bit better in that group. Totally understand that everybody can.
Yeah,
That's
just
absolutely
love your hearing however you can be here. It means the world to us.
And thanks. Hope you guys enjoyed what we did and how this goes. Anyway, the video's fun.
You did a great job. Like,
Thank you.
the video itself, the credits,
Thank
the
you.
everything, like, really good work.
Thank you. Well, thank you for letting me be me and letting me do stuff.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, and when I say, hey, can you send me the bed music for stuff? And
Yep.
you're like, yeah, here you go. And you just let me go. Like, you know, because let me tell you how great Jeff is, folks. Jeff never once told me what to do, how to do, or asked me to do it. He just let me do.
I did ask
And-
if you were crazy. Like, what do you,
You
what are
did.
you doing?
And I think my text to you was, if I ever have the idea to do this again, just shoot me.
Yeah,
And you were like, gladly.
I tried.
So, you know, but yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed this project. It was a big project though.
Big, yeah.
Like it really, I don't think people
Well,
understand just how many hours.
You
something like
reached
that
out
takes.
to what's his name? The voice actor?
Alec.
Alec. Yeah.
Yeah.
You reached out to Alec on like Friday or something like that. Like
Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, it took him a couple. It's probably Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think it was
Wednesday
Friday
last
we got
week.
the first draft, right?
Yeah,
It was
and it took him a couple of days to get it to me, and then I got it, and I was like, I honestly didn't. My original here you go. You want the original plan? You want the original plan of the video about the original
okay.
plan?
Yeah.
It was just going to be pictures. I was just going to put pictures, just still pictures.
Oh yeah.
And then I looked at it and I went, oh, it's a 22-minute long reading. That's going to be really boring after 22 minutes. There's no way. I was like, and I just kind of went, I can do better.
You did.
I can do better. So let's do better. I really, there are a few places in it that I'm like, I could have made that one better. Could have done this one better. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm so tickled to death that you got some of the timing
Yeah, you did
on
so
some of that.
great.
I'm really like, because those are the little things I think that make a difference that not everybody really notices, and that's okay. Like if you did notice it, you're either attuned to how it works, or you didn't do it right.
Yeah.
You know, like so often your job is like, something's off. It's just not right. I can't necessarily tell you what it is, but it's like when you go to a concert and it sounds bad, and you're like, I don't know what it is, but it's just off. I just know it when it's off. Now, I actually
The sound
look around, I
person.
know
Yeah.
it's off.
Uh-huh.
And my wife looks at me and goes, do you know what's wrong? And I go, uh-huh. And she goes, could you fix it? And I go, uh-huh. She's like, will you go back there and fix it? I go, uh-uh.
They're making a lot of money.
Yeah, that's not my job. No, I'm not. I'm going to respect them enough to let them suck.
Down in the chat, Suzanne, I noticed, she says, because if you
Hey.
haven't already, so here's
Oh
your
my God,
chance.
Suzanne,
You got
yeah.
a big group on here. Suzanne's put together some incredible videos and has done so much work, like
Yeah.
similar to what you've done. And
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
knows. She sees you.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah,
her.
those, we're gonna release those videos. I'm not entirely. Listen, our friend Trey made us a video that we use. Well, the audio, we use that as our,
So
as our opening.
he used season 5 music, which is superior to the season 4 music.
Yes.
So
And he made us a kind of a supercut of our vote, and we're using that now.
chunks
But,
of it.
I
yeah.
mean, we sat on that for
A year.
A while,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Like it feels like a long
You know,
time.
so I say that to say, like, for Suzanne, like the stuff Suzanne has made, I'm not entirely sure what context we're going to use it in yet, but it's going to get used.
So good.
Oh, and if you guys are in the chat room right now, Suzanne has dropped the link where you guys can go check that stuff out.
Yeah, go watch it. She did such a great job.
You guys want to do it. Also, and I'm going to say this to all of you folks, the council chambers, this is council chambers, Mimbari level, and Earth Force. Oh, my light just went out. Earth Force captains, if you're still on that old tier, you guys are all considered associate producers. They get your names in the credits. If your name was misspelled or your name wasn't there, please reach out and let me know, and I will correct that. Okay. I did my best. And basically the way that's going to happen, Jeff, I'm not going to recreate that video every single time we put an episode out.
Right.
That's not going to happen. But what I'll do is about once a month, I will take the list that we have that's active and I'll compare it and I'll make those changes. It'll happen about once a month. So, you know, if you're in for that month, you should get credited for whatever we make during that month is the idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Look, man, I lost that light and look at all this.
Big difference.
This went bad, right?
But you're right.
Lighting's so key, guys, to video. Right? It's so key
it's
to
everything.
It really is.
And we really have figured out that's got a 2-hour lifespan. That's like the second time we've gotten here. So recently.
It does. I have 2 batteries over here. One of them does not last as long as
Verge. It's Mimbari and up. I think that we are listing as producers. Also, there's an older Earth Force captain one that we've since
unpublished,
retired.
but there's a couple of people that are still they've you're not supposed to use the word phrase grandfathered anymore, but that's what I mean.
They're left in is what you say.
They're left in. Yeah. Sure, whatever.
It's not that hard.
Listen, there's still enough old Southern in me. I'm like, I can't keep up with all that stuff.
It's hard.
It's hard to keep up.
So there's conversation in the chat around doing the Babylon 5 Leadership Academy, which I'd love to do. Brent and I are talking about some ideas for me to revive the Starfleet Leadership Academy, which I'm excited.
Yes, we have. Also. We've had some pretty high level conversations about that.
Yeah. Like I'm ready to try it. Like I got to.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you.
I know I'm excited. I loved that show. I love it. But in that world of leadership, we often use the phrase stakeholder. We have a stakeholder in this. It's not great, right? Because that's how a lot of the land was taken from people in the United States, was by driving a stake. We now say interest holders or interested parties. It's not a difficult change, and it actually makes even more sense.
I don't know. I feel like somebody took a phrase and said it could also mean this other thing, and now we're going to be offended by it. That's my reaction.
I don't disagree necessarily, but and to me, it's not even to me. It's not, it makes more sense to say interested party. Stakeholders like jargon. Stakeholder like Buffy? Like are they going to stab somebody? What's happening?
Sure. Homonyms. It's or homonym, homophone. If you're taking one word that means one thing and then you're using the other definition for it
use other ones
to make something weird. Anyway,
hold on, I got to make sure I've got the right thing because I have a really good example of that. This one, yeah, it's kind of like the word that
Hey, don't forget, you got a couple of those you need to add in for me.
I did. I took.
Thank you. I told you it was coming because I knew what I wanted to say. I was sitting there brushing my teeth this morning, and I was like, "Oh, that's how I'm going to say that." Okay, great.
That'll be great. For fun, let's just do a little. I also listed this as episode 23 for your thing. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 of them.
Oh, really?
That I'm going back to clear. Yeah.
Babylon 5 for the second time after dark is what we're now into. You're not supposed to use grandfathered anymore. Yeah.
It has to do with the grandfather clause. Not a great thing. Well, yeah, not a great thing.
Yeah. I'm reminded of something Delen said in the show. You hold the land and you hold the land and then you hold the land, and at some point, who cares? Like,
when does it end?
Yeah, when does it end? Also, probably a bit of the differences between where I am right now and where you are. We are in 2 very different parts of this country with
yes,
some different pieces. So Anyway, here's the thing. This is what you guys are seeing is Brent in process, still learning. That's what it is.
We're all on our journeys.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just acknowledge that.
Exactly. And yes. Yeah.
And I agree, Nia. This is better than Babylon 5 for the second time after Drock.
After Drock.
If we were after Drock, we'd have keepers.
It'd
be no good.
So, anyway,
let's get this done before we hit 210.
I think, yeah. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. We will catch you guys on the flip side. We're going to hit 210.